Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it anywhere and even earn money, all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. And when you want to take conversations with your fans to the next level, Q&A and polls are the best way to get them talking. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since I discovered Spotify for Podcasters, I've really enjoyed options like looking at the statistics. I can see who downloads, how many episodes, where it's from, and that's useful because I'm part of a podcast network, Tokyo Beat Podcast Network, and I need to turn that information in every month. So other podcasting services, the stats might be hard to find. In Spotify for Podcasters, it's really easy to just find there and boop, 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 get the stats out there and on my ways. So I highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started.
SequelCast 2 and Friends is a part of the HyperX podcast network.
You're fearless.
No, Fievel. Only fools are fearless. But I have learned that once you find out the facts about something scary, it helps make the fear go away.
After the credits roll, there's always more to tell. Especially when the video sales are doing really well. From Shock Treatment to Jason X to Police Academy 6. This is SequelCast, and they are unsurpassed at following a franchise until the bitter end. This is SequelCast, and your hosts have asked that I inform you that the show will now begin.
Hello and welcome to SequelCast 2 and Friends, a podcast looking at movies in a franchise, one film at a time. I'm your host, Matt Bradley Shergi. We are looking at the final film to date of the American Tail animated quadrilogy, American Tail, Mystery of the Night Monster. So directed by Larry Latham with screenplay by Len Uli, based on characters by David Kirshner. And with me is Thrasher.
I got your leash right here.
And Alex.
Hey there, I am an old-timey stereotype. Fievel's my guy Friday. Hey, what do you hear? What do you say, kid? Newspapers.
Yep. Man, I mean, I guess looking back on it last week, we talked about American Tail, the third one, The Treasure on Manhattan Island, and or something like that. And I would call that like a soft reboot with how it dealt with American Tail 2.
Yep, that's a good way to put it.
You would never know that this movie was a sequel to anything.
No, it's very odd, and I wonder if like both of these were made at the same time, or because they came out like nearly back to back with the release date. And I always find that as a consumer who buys
Troubling.
some physical, troubling when you go and you see, I don't know, Starship Troopers 3 and 4 came out in the same day, or I'm just making that up. It's not a real example, but right, and you go to the store and it's like, oh, these can't be good, or Sci-Fi Channel did this for a lot with. Oh, geez. Pumpkinhead 3 and 4. And then you had like Land of the Dead, Rave of the Dead, or there's one of those Romero films.
Rave to the Grave.
Rave to the Grave.
Yeah, there's...
Day of the Dead, I think Day of the Dead was the one that had those weird issues. Man, when I worked retail and people at Movie Stop and we were selling movies, we didn't rent them out, and I just would just lie to customers all the time because they're like, is this movie good? And I would just always say yes. And then I'd get in trouble for that. And it's like, I'm not going to watch all this shit.
It's like, if you really got my honest opinion, you'd probably leave.
And say, no.
Yeah.
They did let me one time choose what movies to put on an outward-facing shelf.
Ooh.
And I picked kind of like, science fiction, fantasy, horror, all the kind of genre stuff. And like that stuff did terribly. And then they went, and then someone just put like the cheapest shit possible. And that stuff sold really well, like $2, $3 Sci-Fi Channel.
Go figure, right?
Lavalantula. Yeah, I mean, this is in Atlanta, Georgia, at a very crowded location by a mall, or Marietta, excuse me.
Those movies never live up to their title. except that they literally will have what the title suggests, but not the movie the title suggests.
But they sometimes have great cover art. Like
And that's
I
a
love
cool merchandise, kid.
the cover art for Velocipaster, which I think might be my favorite title in a long time.
Well, at least that
Anyway,
movie is trying.
Yes, Australian production, I believe. Anyhow, American Tail, Mystery of the Night Monster. This was direct to VHS and then soon after DVD. And I don't know where Wikipedia gets off on saying this is a prequel to the second film. Whoever wrote this, because the third movie clearly discounts the second film. I don't think that's up for debate. But
Although, well, you know how I talked about how in the previous film it was difficult to tell whether Tanya was Fievel's older sister, younger sister, or twin sister. This movie only compounds that, because in this movie she would seem to be a full decade older than Fievel in mouse years.
Yeah, she's at least like 5 years older than him.
Although this does raise some questions about mouse lifespans, because one of the characters makes a comment about how they were a journalist during the American Civil War.
Right.
Whoa. Yeah, that's
Which like that would make the mouse like over, I think, based on the timeline of this movie, like 20 human years old.
This means only one thing: An American Tail is a stealth Secret of Nims prequel.
Exactly.
And
that's the crossover we want to see.
I'd see that American Tail versus Rats and Nim. Yeah, go for it.
Oh no, wait! I take that back. That would have been like 30. That would make him 30 years at least.
Yeah.
But still, quite old for a mouse.
And what did he say? He said like my grandfather or something, or father or something.
Here, Alex, can you unplug and replug in your headset?
Yeah. Sounding.
Much better, thank you.
All right, cool. But yeah, that would make him a grandfather or something. He said, correspondent of the Civil War.
Well, no, he specifically said when I was a reporter during the Civil War.
Right. Yeah, that's weird.
The big newspaper mouse.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess like Tanya, the way I see it is that like Tanya's a teenager, Fievel's a boy. Like.
Yes.
That's like, I guess, how I interpreted the age. And is this one that has a baby in it? Because I feel like they had like a legit baby in the Moskovitz film.
They did, but again, that the child's age seems to change based on the needs of the scene. Sometimes it's like a 3-year-old who can walk and say a word. Sometimes it's a babe wrapped in swaddlings.
I remember thinking, I was like, are they trying to make them seem more like cliche immigrant-y by like throwing more kids in there or something? Like, you know what I mean though? Like, so impoverished.
Well, but that's the other thing. Well, you know, that is kind of strange. Okay, no, never mind. This tangent I must save for pitch a sequel, so I will be silent. I can't risk another tangent.
Yeah, you mentioned all the kid stuff. It just makes me want to see Fievel do and the Mousekowitzes do a version of Every Sperm is Sacred from Monty Python's Meaning of Life.
Well, we can be thankful that this does not open with a horrible musical number.
Oh, thank goodness.
Instead, it opens with a poorly animated dream sequence. So this is the thing. Fievel's been through a lot and has a lot of character development, and has had a lot of character development in each of the movies, even the bad one from last week. But like all terrible sequels, you must forget that character development happened. So for absolutely no reason in this film, Fievel is given the problem of chronic nightmares which have nothing to do with escaping Cossack cats, which would be understandable and in keeping with his character's history. It's just like he has nightmares and he's afraid of everything.
Yeah, which is it's kind of strange. And it's a kind of a weird framing device. And then it basically says like, in this world, we think monsters are real, and they're talking about them in the newspaper.
Well, that's the other thing. So yeah, there is a night monster, which I'll skip to the end. Of course, it's a machine that looks like a monster. Yeah. That's how the mice defeated the cats in the first one. They made a fake monster. Yeah. So not only are they falling for their own trick, but at no point does anyone say, well, hey, y'all remember like last month when we literally built a kaiju and used it against cats. Maybe someone's literally built a kaiju and is using it against us. And I'm going to say it now: the way this film should have ended, the night monster fights the giant mouse of Minsk.
There you go.
That would have happened. That is not what we get.
Would have been satisfying. Would have been a callback to the original.
Or someone
film.
else finds the mouse of Minsk and is using it for dubious purposes. Ergo, these guys have to make a combating one. Something I don't know if I.
Yes.
But
I guess that's
I will say I liked that the business of like a lot of like makeshifty mouse stuff, like the tube line thing, the technology in this movie. I thought it was actually pretty damn cool.
That was fun, and that whole sequence, where like the pneumatic tubes used to send messages in the newspaper office, that the mice had turned that into a little subway. That was so charming, and I love that the mice never had just like miniaturized human items. Everything the mice had was like something to scale. It was like human trash to scale. So like, like the seats they sat in were like old tuna cans with paperclip handles, and like how like the when the mouse newspaper man is drinking from a mug, his mug is the bottom of an old incandescent light bulb. Like those that's one thing this movie does very well, are those little details.
The coat hanger's a bent up fork.
Yeah.
Like I think that I love that stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like this movie a little bit. It's just probably that's my hot take. I kind of think this movie's kind of cool.
Well, it has one premise and it sticks to it, and that does help.
Yeah, it doesn't overcomplicate things. And I think the opening with the nightmare, even though it does look sort of cheap, at least gets your attention.
And you notice like the devil mouse, the fiery devil mouse that's chasing Fievel. You notice it looks a hell of a lot like one of the fiery devil cats from All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I was also thinking of All Dogs Go to Heaven 2, where it had an evil dog with a devil dog imagery, satanic imagery with a dog.
But that's essentially what gets this going, is that the cats are still gone. So since the second film was a dream, and there were no cats in the previous film other than Tiger, in this fourth film, presumably they did defeat the cats once and for all, but the mice live in a weird security state where they've built a wall with like passport checks and things to get in and out of their alleyway, which is I feel like that should have been commenting on something, but I'm not sure it was.
Right.
Because it's almost like they went right back to a shtetl, frankly, that's depressing. If you flee the shtetl, come to America and then build your own shtetl. That's fucked up. But anyway, like mice are disappearing. There's like monster attacks, and then mice disappear. And
it's time to tap in with the HyperX Quadcast S microphone. The stunning HyperX Quadcast S features dynamic, customizable RGB lighting, a convenient tap-to-mute sensor, and 4 selectable polar patterns, so it can broadcast crystal clear audio, whether you're gaming, streaming, podcasting, or impressing your remote colleagues and classmates. So what are you waiting for? Join the Quad Squad and tap in today with the HyperX Quadcast S microphone.
I gotta say, I liked this character. They introduced a new character, Nellie Bree, the plucky lady mouse reporter, who is based on the real plucky reporter Nellie Bly. Who, read up on her. She lived an amazing life.
Yeah, I like this. She's doing they're totally doing like a Cary Grant, Katharine Hepburn thing.
Oh yeah, it's all rat-a-tat-tat. We're gonna get the scoop. We're gonna find out what's going on, and if there's corruption, we'll suss it out. Now I'm gonna talk to the boss man back at the paper. See you soon, kid.
Yeah. And I also thought it was kind of cute that Tanya's like over the moon about him, and then you can tell Fievel's digging her too.
That's the other thing is that Tanya, again, she would seem to be a teenager because she works now at the newspaper. She's like kind of a gopher at the newspaper, and Tony is a newsboy, which right off the bat, I'm like, oh, are they going to do the newsboy strike? No, they're not. But that could also be worthy of a movie, and maybe, frankly, it should. Oddly enough, maybe that should have been here to thicken out the stew a little bit. But this does introduce a weird dynamic. So there is the guy, oh crud, the Reed Daly clever. The Mouse reporter who now is like the editor for the Mouse newspaper. Of course, he and Nellie end up having a romance, and they get together at the end of the movie, which is actually kind of sweet. But they have this thing where like Tanya has a crush on Reed Daly. And it's sort of weird because on the one hand, that is kind of real. Like speaking for myself and a lot of people I know, when you get to a certain age, you inevitably develop a romantic crush on a much older person. And that's just kind of part of growing up. Now, if that person finds out about it and takes advantage of it, that person is a goddamn monster. But it's just something you go through. You have an attachment to someone who cannot and should not reciprocate, and it's just like a thing. And they give Tanya that for Reed Daly, which when it's first introduced is kind of cute, but then it just keeps going, and it just starts to feel really weird.
It should be noted Reed Daly is voiced by Robert Hayes, who we previously talked about a long time ago on
he was an Airplane.
An Airplane, yeah, the lead in Airplane 1 and 2.
Oh,
and he does good with the rat-a-tat dialogue and all that. But it's like it's at some point, look, just let Tanya and Tony hook up, because Tony's girlfriend is gone, and like they at least in this movie they seem to be the same age.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. You get some more Tony business. And I like that they kind of stuck with his character. Like he's always like hitching up his pants and like, fixing his hat and straightening up. He's always kind of bumbling about with himself. It's a good little character flourish.
He's a bit like Artful Dodger in Oliver.
Yeah. Well, I also like that he wants to be upwardly mobile. Yeah, I'm a newspaper boy today, but one day I could be an ace reporter. Oh,
hey, bony baloney.
Yeah, he's always trying to get into the higher echelons of the newspaper, which I rather liked.
Or remember when they're investigating the thing? He's like, "I told you to stay behind, and you ignored me and came out anyway. You'll go far in this business, see?"
And so another missed opportunity, because like Fievel, Tanya brings Fievel to work with her, and he ends up following Nellie Bree around. Not his sister. Like there's a part of me. There was a part of me that's like, oh, this is going to be Fievel's sister's movie. No, it's not. She gets relegated to the sidelines after being the one who brings all the principal characters together. And like Fievel kind of like is following Nellie Bree around and is like making sketches of the monster based on like witness descriptions. And the whole time I'm like, oh, this could be really clever. Like you could have Fievel like learn to become an artist, and we could see his drawings improve in each scene, and he could learn that maybe this is what he's going to be when he's an adult. He's going to be like the sketch guy or the political cartoonist at the newspaper. No, he never gets any better. It's all these kids drawing.
Yeah.
He never gets attached to the art.
I do like that that Reed calls him Rembrandt. Like, come over here, Rembrandt.
But and then okay, so we get a proper sort of antagonist in this one, because like there's a pink French poodle fortune teller named Madame Musset, spelled mousy but pronounced Musset.
Yeah.
Played by Candy Milo, who's a longtime voice actress, and she's really given it her all. She was on SWAT Cats, among many other things, and she keeps switching back and forth between this like affected French voice and this angry like Runyon-esque Brooklyn accent. And she's pretending to be a soothsayer and like selling people like bags of herbs to ward the night monster away, and that's her whole scam. Turns out she's the mastermind behind the night monster.
And you kind of know that right away when you see her selling like pulpuses. You're like, yeah, that's clearly going to be our heavy right there.
Yeah, because so if this was more clever, she would just be a stooge of the real villain, who would turn out to be Warren T. Rat, back from Hong Kong, using the mice's own strategy against them. But no, it's not. She, like, her whole backstory is needlessly complicated. She was the pampered poodle of the wife of the man in charge of public works in New York, who runs the sewers, and she gets tired of being referred to as a cute little mouse of a dog, so she runs away, moves to join the stray dogs who live in Central Park. They kick her out, and you would think they kicked her out because she's a tiny dog who can't run with the big dogs in the pack. But no, I'm pretty sure they kicked her out because she's an asshole. So she's not sympathetic at all.
Well, I thought she was abandoned because I thought because they moved, it shows them like moving furniture and like I forgot the feeling that she was like, left
No,
behind.
no. She says that they were moving, and one of the movers left the door open, and that's how she escaped.
Oh, okay, all right.
But yeah, and then like she again, like she doesn't want revenge on the dogs, but she like organizes New York's remaining stray cats together in a gang, builds a robot night monster that can burrow and kidnap mice, and then they're keeping the mice in cages and then presumably selling them to other cats. Needlessly complicated, does not tie into her background at all.
Yeah, like I was like, is she rabid or something? Like maybe that's why the dogs kicked her out. I was like, oh, she's probably just obnoxious, I guess. But
Yeah, but it's one of the, and this is another problem with the investigations, is that like, you know, because it like burrows up and grabs the mice and like goes away. Wherever the night monster has attacked, there are these big holes in the floor. They never just go in the hole and see where it goes.
yeah, this is one of those things where it's one of those movies where I like it when the story isn't happening. Like I just kind of like when they're just kind of like doinking about the newsroom or like walking a beat and stuff like that. Like the interactions amongst the characters I enjoy. Then when the story pops up, I'm kind of like, less interested.
You are absolutely right.
Yeah, like it's like a bad western, you know, like when they're hanging around and playing guitar and getting drunk. It's a lot of fun. Then like, all right, we have to do stuff. And it's like, oh shit, I was having more fun doing this.
And something else that's, it's, you know, because of course it's going after like mice, you know, everywhere. So like there's like it goes after it, like it attacked a family of mice in Chinatown. So they go there and they interview the wife of the mouse who went missing, and
Womp womp.
it really it's an embarrassing scene because yeah, on the one hand, yeah, New York did have a Chinatown at that point. You did have people living there wearing more traditional Chinese garb, but it is just this like stereotype of a mouse speaking in like a real stereotypical broken English. And then later there's one mouse that like survived an attack, and it's a Scottish mouse. And when the mouse showed up, I sarcastically said, "Oh, and here's Scotty O'Haggis." And wouldn't you know it, his name is Mr. Haggis.
That's stupid.
And his whole thing is, I was making some shortbread. First, it's soda bread, not shortbread.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I pour some butter down its throat. It looked like messy. Get in my belly, Fievel.
Right. I mean, and they're quite different. Like shortbread is this rich, buttery thing.
It's
Sort of more of a
delicious.
cookie.
Oh,
It's a dense, delicious dessert. It's cookie you can eat like a cake.
Yes,
damn right.
and soda bread is this. I mean, it's dense. Thing. But yes, I think what stands out to me about this movie, the you're right, the poodle being such an asshole is so obnoxious right off the bat that you're right that it's not a surprise. And I just found the characters so like almost too annoying at times. Like maybe if there would have been a bit of an arc to her performance, we could have got something. Like maybe if she started kind of sweet and then became like you learned her backstory and she was mean and had more of motivation, but instead she's like Jack Nicholson in The Shining, right? She's like on 11 from the get-go.
So strangely enough, I feel like the most memorable thing is that she has a bunch of cats working for her, but her three main henchman cats, one it sounds like Sylvester Stallone, one sounds like Squiggy from Lenny and Squiggy, and the other sounds like Jerry Lewis when he remembers he's supposed to sound like Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, it's great. You know, you got this mechanical monster thing, you know. Hey.
Oh, lady, he poured butter and it hurt me.
Glaven, yeah.
He did everything short of a Glaven.
Right.
You know.
Well, I guess we should talk about the music because we do get the three requisite musical numbers. The only one
that's the one, right? Like we're doing three.
Yeah, we are doing three, and like the one that I liked is Get the Facts, where it's Nellie Bree singing to Fievel about what a reporter's job is. And get the facts, learn the whys and wheres and who. Just get the fact, and like it still sounds like a first draft, but it feels like the first draft of a really good song. If this had been a little faster, a little tighter in the writing, and a little more rat-a-tat-tat, this could have been a truly show-stopping number.
Yeah, it's one, it's consistent with the material that you're watching, unlike the last movie. And two, it's kind of catchy. That's the thing is that it can be a first draft if it's catchy enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you've got a good little hook, a good little chorus, then roll with it. And I also like that it's performed by the actors.
Yeah, and that helps. And like it's talk singy. It's sort of talk singy, but in a good, natural way. Then, we get the villain number sung by Madame Mousset, Creature de la Nuit, which literally means creature of the night, where it's just her singing about I'm the monster, blah, blah, blah. It's
the bad guy song.
Yeah, and then of course you get the sappy song when turns out there's a dog council, and this is the one that lives in Central Park. And this is one of the weird things is that like in all the previous movies there are like analogs between like all the different creatures and like different parts of the world where they may have come from.
Yes,
these dogs might as well be magical ghosts.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
And you'd think like there are dog breeds associated with specific parts of the world. The closest they get is their leader is a Great Dane who sounds vaguely British, but like you could have Scotty dog from Scotland. Like you could have had dogs with accents that aren't forced.
Well, and also they're just boring. Like
they're
not like scruffy or funny. They don't have like hats or anything. They're just fucking dogs,
Yeah,
like,
the dog that goes by the name of Lone Wolf is Nellie's contact in the dog council. And when he says, "Well, we can't help you. This is not our fight," and then they sing a song called "Who Will," which is all about coming together, helping people, and the message is good. If there's something that won't be done, if you're not going to do it, then who the hell is going to do it? You've got to take that initiative. But it's so slow and so sappy.
Yeah. I feel like the dogs were like designed and conceived by someone who had 0.0 interest in these characters. They're like, we need like 4 or 5 dogs. Like, oh fuck, well, you're getting 4 or 5 dogs. That's it. I'm not getting hats. They're not getting accents. They're not getting stripes.
Right. It is worth noting, Thrasher, you mentioned, there was a pretty good team on the prior American Tail film, the third one. This one, it has a different one, still out of Japan, but it's Tama Productions.
Yeah, I am not familiar with Tama Productions, but they do not hold a candle to TMS.
Right. So, I mean, as far as Western animations, they did a lot of work on some of the Disney afternoon stuff, Goof Troop, Gargoyles, Hercules, the animated series. But as far as other stuff, things like 8 Crazy Nights, I don't really like the animation in that, and some of the Alvin and the Chipmunks direct-to-TV cartoons, like Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein and the Wolfman and your mom or whatever else it is.
They did a RoboCop parody.
Yes, I love that show, Chipmunks at the Movies. But yeah, I think RoboCop is somewhat inappropriate. But it already had 2 animated series at the time, so fuck it.
RoboCop.
You can't get enough of that song, Thrasher. I think you have that MP. No, I think you have that MP3 on your phone, and you have it like on a loop as your alarm.
It's terrible, and it's brilliant in its terribleness.
But still catch. I mean, that's the thing. Like it has something to it.
But because we have to raise the stakes, eventually the night monster attacks Fievel's home, and in a scene that actually is kind of scary, kidnaps his parents. They find him. They find Tony. Finds where the cats are keeping him. He saves them by flooding the chamber. Then the cats chase. Like the ending just keeps going. Like the cats. They're going to use the night monster to attack the mouse newspaper, but then the cats are there, and there's a whole kerfuffle. And I do have to wonder, because in all these movies, they've always done a really good job of keeping the human world and the animal world sort of parallel but separate. But there's some shit that happens with the night monster in the human newspaper offices that cannot be ignored. I want to know what happens when the newspaper people go into work the next morning and find the wreckage of a robot monster in their destroyed offices.
Made by animals and rodents.
Yeah. Although I will say the design for the night monster is kind of clever because it's all made out of like period appropriate items. Like it has this like barrel body. It has this thing where like there's this like flashing cat monster head with a mouth that opens and closes, but it's created by like a zeotrope that's worked into the head of the monster. It's kind of neat. Like some care went into designing what this night monster mechanism looks like.
It's like something from like one of the like shitty Sherlock Holmes stories no one gives a crap about, like not the book of Sherlock, like the case study files of Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, like yeah, when somebody does a new Sherlock Holmes story, but they can't decide what to do, so they just introduce a ghost and sort of Scooby-Doo it at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but the mice win. Bree and Nellie Bree and Reed Daly confess their love to each other and hook up. It's like, oh, but we can't get married. We'll be miserable. Well, I guess we'll have to get married. Of course, we'll be miserable together. Well, I wouldn't have it any other way. And I guess Tanya has to reconcile with that, but she doesn't really age. And Fievel has gotten over his completely affected phobias.
Yes, exactly.
And it just kind of ends. Although this movie raises one hell of a question, because we've seen talking cockroaches, we know that all birds can also talk, and all these animals can talk. We know dogs can talk. Horses can't. Horses are just animals because they ride a horse in this one. And they don't say, please, Mr. Horse, save us. And he goes, okay. No, they go, well, here we go. This is going to hurt him. And they bite the horse's butt. And the horse whinnies and runs. The horse never goes, oh, why'd you bite my tuchus? It's just the horse is just an animal.
I think it's one of those things where it's like, since people use them, you can't like give them like sentience.
But people use dogs, and all dogs talk.
True, yeah. There's sleighs and stuff. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know.
There's and then
any movies. You notice that there's no fish.
Yeah. Oh, and then Madame Mousset gets wrapped up in the morning paper, because that's where she ends up after the fight, and gets left on her owner's footstep. And so we end with her being dragged on a leash by her owner, who's like doting on her, and Madame Mousset hates it. But this is another thing about keeping sort of the human world and the mouse world separate. This is the first time we've seen humans have sustained dialogue. Usually it's just sort of a murmur in the distance.
Yeah.
It does not work. It does not work at all. It clashes so much with the film, the way these humans look and move and talk.
Yeah, it definitely bumps a little bit for sure. Also, I feel like this is one of those movies where I feel like if you took like the story of like the newspaper, just say you just take the story, and I feel like if you took this like kind of style of storytelling and you made it as a film like intended for like more mature audiences and got rid of like the kiddie stuff, like the songs and like the crappy villain character building, like it would actually be a way better movie.
There's a seed of a great sequel in here.
Right.
It's completely trodden over.
Yeah, it's just funny because like if you took the tropes of like quick talking newspaper stuff, and like if you just like matured it a little bit, then I think it would actually be like a pretty good movie. But you just fall into these like kind of trappings of like I'm the bad guy song, and then like like all this other kind of cliche crap. It weighs it down. But I will say I this is head and shoulders I think better than the last one, but the bar is not that high. So
yeah, it's a weird way to go. I'm not sure why.
The ending on Coney Island also seems tacked on, where they're just at the beach, and then Fievel's like, "Oh, Fievel can now get some sleep," and he just falls asleep.
Yeah, that's sort of a lazy ending, but I agree that this it's more inspired, even if the telltale thing of the villain is pretty obvious. And
also, she looks like bad fan art of Georgette from Oliver and Company.
Oh my God, yes. Good point. Yeah, because that was the one, but it was Streisand, right?
I think Georgette was Bette Midler.
Excuse me. Yep, Bette Midler. You're right.
And Cheech Marin as the Chihuahua.
Oh, nice.
Of course.
Like, I always thought that was going to be the twist, is that she's not a poodle. She was like a Chihuahua that like some unscrupulous breeder tried to pass off as a poodle or something. Because like,
what if instead of her being a poodle, what if she was a rat?
Well, yeah, because they even make a comment about that. You've already had multiple examples of like members of
Right,
one
disguise.
species impersonating another.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I would say sequel yes to this. I think it's has some fun to it. Is it the best story in the world? No, but it's Shakespeare compared to number 3. And you could do
Well.
far worse than throwing this in and watching it. And it's short. I like that these are under 80 minutes long. Alex.
Yeah, hot take. I liked this. Well, I wouldn't say I liked it. I enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. No, this was. I thought this was like you said, compared to number 3, this is fucking, yeah, this is Shakespeare. I think it's got more focus. I think it introduces some interesting characters. It has I think it like knows when to have more fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and I think it establishes a nice tone and kind of harkens back to some of the characteristics that made the first movie so indelible. So yeah, sequel, yes, surprisingly.
I'm going to give it a sequel. No, it is so Mystery of the Night Monster is undeniably a better movie than the Treasure of Manhattan, but I can't let the fact that a cold poker feels better than a red hot poker make me think that the cold poker is a good thing. So I gotta give this a sequel. No, if you're going to watch the sequels, maybe this one won't truly disappoint you, but it's overall, like, I think it's only really worth seeing for completeness sake. It gives you a middle note to go out on.
Yes, middle.
Middle. But I think I still had more fun with this than the third one, but you can agree to disagree. That's what we do here. Go on to pitch a sequel. It's tough to think of American Tail sequels, except it's not because I did, as we all have to. Called Tiger's Great Adventure. Tiger is hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a little Skype beep in there. Okay. Tiger was being a little goofball. People don't know what happened to be in the origin story, but maybe he hears. He says, I know I'm kind of a funny guy. I'm going to do stand-up comedy, and it'll be about Tiger inventing the art of stand-up comedy. And you get kind of into the Borscht Belt and things like that. So it'd be called, maybe, instead of Tiger's Great Adventure, Tiger's stand-up. Tiger's a stand-up cat or something.
Yeah, like
Some
Tiger
overly wordy.
lets loose.
Yes. Every time I say Tiger, my brain goes to Tigger.
Well, you know what? He has to have a crossover. Then you can do another one where he crosses over with Rover Dangerfield.
I get no.
Yes, and what was the rooster one?
Oh, that was Rockadoodle.
Yeah, so Rockadoodle, Rover Dangerfield, and Tiger.
I like Rockadoodle. I think that's a very charming little movie.
I know I saw them when I was a kid. I have no frame of reference for what. Yeah, no memories of them.
You'll appreciate it more if you know more about Elvis, particularly his film career.
I see. And we covered a series that talked about Elvis somewhat in passing with Lilo and Stitch.
Yes.
There you go, Thrasher.
All right, so my pitch is sequel. So to get onto that tangent, so the one aspect of the immigrant experience that they have not touched on in any of these movies is when you are the child of immigrants. So like I want to do a movie where the Mousekowitzes, they have one more kid who is born in America and is the first natural born American Mousekowitz. So this one will be set probably, maybe in the 20s or so. Like he'll be sort of like a teenager. Fievel's going to be his uncle. Papa Mousekowitz has died of old age and possibly exhaustion from all the kids he's been making. Fievel has taken over the fiddle business. Tanya is a reporter, because I really want some level of continuity. And it's all about it's all going to be about this American Mouskowitz kid who is he's getting ready to become a man, and he's going to have to go through his bar mitzvah, because I really think these movies are at their best when they remember that the Mouskowitzes have Jewish roots. And so it's going to be about him sort of being the very definition of a model of a modern American, but also sort of connecting with his family's heritage and like roots in the old country. And that will be the big climax, of sort of this heartwarming moment where he does his bar mitzvah, and like all the other characters that we've seen in the films like will be there as guests, and it'll just end on kind of a nice touching moment.
Very cool.
And I guess, because Fievel was Spielberg's grandfather, we'll name this Mouskowitz kid after Spielberg's father. Keep that connection too. These movies really did lose something when Spielberg wasn't involved.
Oh, you bet. Money.
Certainly. And in fact, Spielberg has a film coming out that's sort of loosely based on his life as a young man. And I think Seth Rogen plays his father in that.
Oh, no shit.
But it doesn't come out until next year because he still has West Side Story. I don't think is out quite yet. But
I think it's in previews now. And I hear Shecky Spielberg is also going to do a movie about his life story.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. It's going to be all about...
Oh, Shecky, you're here.
Yeah, I've been here the whole time. I hide in plain sight. I did that thing where I paint my body like the things that are in the room, and then I come out and booby, 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 booby. That's how I met Bo Derek.
Well, there you go. So
that explains the ooby booby 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 that I've been hearing during certain very intimate moments. I would thank you to not do that any longer.
Well, Chuck, you'll have to add to the ambiance of stuff, but you have quite a storied life. So how can you cram that into one feature film, and what do you pick and choose?
Well, what I do is that I get a roll of toilet paper, and I write each story on a square, and then I roll that square down some stairs. And when it doesn't rip, that's the story I use. So, because you don't want gaps in your timeline, and you want continuity. That's one thing I learned from baby brother Steve, is that when it comes to storytelling, it's all about rolling that roll of toilet paper down the staircase and seeing how it rips or if it doesn't rip. But you got to use quilted bounty. That's the good stuff right there. You can't use any of that that generic store brand stuff. And quilted bounty's giving me money to say this.
Or the stuff you steal from the hotel.
Oh, you steal everything. I take the light bulbs.
The light bulbs are important, and because you always need lighting in film. And speaking of which, what format are you filming on these days, Shecky? The price of traditional film has been going through the roof as it becomes more scarce.
I always found traditional film to be criminally overrated. The optics on the iPhone 4 are bar none the best out there. You can get an iPhone J or an iPhone 4 or an iPhone Nokia, but I prefer the optics on the iPhone 4. And with its 4 gigabyte drive, the possibilities are endless.
But doesn't it get sometimes shaky? Do you have it on a tripod? You just hold it in your hand? You strap it to your forehead? How do you?
I duct tape it to a cheese grater, and I stick my hand in the cheese grater. But you got to put it in the grater, not on the grater, because otherwise it'll chop up your hand, and then you'll look like you have a ham salad hand, and then a dog tries to bite your hand, and then your Steadicam rig, the cheese grater with the duct tape for the iPhone 4 falls on the ground, and then you get sad because you also dropped your Cinnabon. And then the ants are all over it.
Have you ever tried a Cinnabon in a cheese grater? That makes a pretty good topping for lasagna.
I garnish my salads with it. Actually, I let the Cinnabon get all stale, and then I do it. I scrape it on top of my salads, my iceberg salad, because we're related, Iceberg and I, Cinnabon, iceberg, Spielberg. That's what Steven Spielberg never talks about. He's embarrassed of that side of the family, and of me for some reason.
Well, that's fascinating. Thank you so much, Shecky, for your thoughts, and we look forward to your upcoming film. What's the title again?
Oh, Through the Eyes of the Great Cinnabon.
Okay, is it spelled like the company or a different spelling?
Or is it like Cinnabon?
Oh yeah, no, we just put a hyphen in the middle. That's how you get away with everything. Hyphens are the best thing ever. I just thought they meant subtraction, like complicated algebra.
So you thought it was like Spider minus man?
It's so confusing because you take away the man, what do you get? Just a spider.
Yeah, and just like a spider is an arachnid has 8 legs, Spider-Man now has 8 sequels, so something to
I
think
think my
about there.
favorite podcast is going to have to cover that.
I think so. Yeah, it's actually shocking that we covered 1 through 3, I think, at one point, but
We did.
years
Now there's
ago,
another 3 and also 2 more and also another one.
something
Oh,
like
he has
yes.
3 legs. That makes him a Trider man?
A good night, Chucky. You're drunk.
I love it when he stops by.
Yeah, he's always a welcome presence here on SequelCast.
We need to stop giving him keys to wherever we're recording.
He is kind of the key master.
Well, then he'll just
isn't
sneak
he?
in through the window. It's best to just give him that agency.
Right. So what, Alex? Do you still have to pitch a sequel?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So I'll keep it short and sweet.
Okay, thanks.
So it turns out that Tony doesn't really have a future in the newspaper business. However, he is something of a sleuth. So what does he do? He opens up his own private eye agency, and then his cronies are Fievel, Tanya, and of course Tiger. So they go about the city solving mysteries and breaking scoops for Mr. and Mrs. Newspaper Face, pistol, weebie polio. And then it's going to be called American Tale, The Great Mouse Detective, but the great is GR8.
Because it's a cheese crime.
Because it's a cheese. What do you hear? What do you say, kid? I made my best friend out of clay, then he came to life. What is he, a golem? That could be another good pitch, a sequel. Papa Mouskovitz makes a friend out of clay because he's got Alzheimer's, and then he becomes a golem.
Oh, that's awful. Also, what is the giant mouse of Minsk if not a golem?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
We've already covered it twice.
The golem is one of a very ancient Jewish. Do you call it a myth? A story? I don't.
It probably qualifies as. I would say probably qualifies as myth, not legend.
It's
part of the folklore, absolutely.
It is, and it appears at different times in movies, and I never would have made that connection to the first film. But you're not wrong. I mean, it's a variation on the Frankenstein story, I think, in some ways. And
yeah.
Well, I mean, Frankenstein is a variation on the story of the golem.
Well, yes. Excuse me. Correct. Frankenstein versus Golem. That's what we need here, really.
There we go. Stein v. Golem, Dawn of Prometheus.
There can only be one modern Prometheus.
There has either of you. I guess we can transition into what you're watching.
The clay is gonna pay.
Yeah, I've been.
The Hardcore Gaming 101 podcast is on a mission to rank the top games of all time. I like the idea that when Bruce Wayne gets angry, he switches to the Batman voice.
Why do you have such a problem making Boomerang shaped like a bat?
You mean like Batman?
Not like Batman, just make it for me! Bruce Wayne, uncanny even with this guy.
It's a Herculean task, and I'd be lying if I said it hasn't taken a toll on our cognitive faculties.
Most people would be happy to have a job during a global pandemic. Dennis!
Hardcore Gaming 101, twice a week, every week, right here on the HyperX Podcast Network.
Explode When Defeated presents something really neat and full of meat.
Those children aren't going to protect themselves in a brand new podcast series about everyone's favorite giant reptile.
Godzilla?
No, we already did that one.
Rodan?
No, we did that one too.
Gorgo?
Gamera. We're talking about Gamera.
From turtles to medieval samurai golems on our new series, Demolition Daiei.
Only on the HyperX Podcast Network.
SequelCast 2 and Friends is part of the HyperX Podcast Network. HyperX is our sponsor and the maker of the acclaimed Quadcast and Quadcast S microphones. Quadcast USB mics look and sound amazing, and they're packed with features. With 4 selectable polar patterns, you'll get great sound no matter what you're recording. The included shock mount and pop filter mean you won't have to shell out extra cash for a great setup. Then there's the eye-catching LED indicator and tap-to-mute sensor, so you can tap in and tap out to stop broadcast accidents. It's time for you to tap in with the HyperX Quadcast and Quadcast S.
I mean, this is one thing real quick, then I'll go about a book, then I'll go into a movie. Is everyone aware of Kevin J. Anderson did a series of Frankenstein books?
Yes.
And it was, one of them was done as a TV movie, but it's like a Frankenstein meets a cop story in modern day. It's
like every TV show.
Yes, it's kind of strange, but that just you just made me think of that. But to go back to something I've actually been watching, I watched a bit of the Amazon Wheel of Time series, and I'm not terribly familiar with the books. I know each of them are like 1,000 pages apiece. You can kill manatees with them pretty easily, and they're just as big conkers. And I think for that kind of a show, and me not knowing the books, and it has a dense mythology, I think it's pretty easy to follow. I would say it's easier to follow than I thought season 1 of The Witcher was. But also, when people cast magic spells, there's far too many shots done from on top of people's heads, like a bird's eye view, and it just looks really weird.
Weird, yeah.
And I don't know if it's these spells that have an area of effect, or like, I don't know, wind blows through and knocks down everything. But from that point of view, it looks very video gamey and strange. But otherwise, the special effects look great. They have a lot of money into it. I don't really recognize any of the cast. One of the characters,
the villain,
is what? No,
the one
but
we could never harness.
but the people that are magic, which I believe are, at one point it says all women, like only women, but then I guess some men can do some of it too. But the magic all comes through the wind somehow, even though that lets them cast fire. So go figure that one out. Did you ever read those books, Thrasher?
Wait, The Witchers?
Or no, sorry, Wheel of Time.
Oh, Wheel of Time. No, I had several friends who were really into them, so sometimes it feels like I read them, and I was at one point involved in a mush for Wheel of Time. For those of you who remember mushes, I am not going to explain what those are now. So like I know a lot of the lore and a lot of the story beats, and I did see the first episode of the show. It was okay. Like it's like I'm not in the mood for that kind of fantasy series right now, so I don't feel like I'm going to watch more. But if I was in the mood for a fantasy series, I think I would have just kept on going.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, me being a complete novice to it, and I'm really curious what Amazon's going to do with their Lord of the Rings: The Second Age series, which takes place way before the films.
Although I will say, because I know the lore of the Wheel of Time, there's what looks like a really awkward cut during the cold open. That's not an awkward cut. There's a story reason why that cut is there. You just got to get into the weeds of the lore to know why. I don't know when they explain that, because I haven't seen beyond the first episode, but I kind of liked right off the bat they included that bit of strangeness.
I see. Yeah, from what I understand, season 1 kind of combines the first 2 books, but that I don't know what those books are. That might mean something to our listeners, but I don't really know what that means. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. It's on Amazon. They're kind of doing an episode at a time, which I still think is kind of pointless when stuff is streaming. I would rather just have the big dump all at once. Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
I kind of prefer it when it's released weekly, if only because it feels less like homework. Like I can watch the episode at my leisure without feeling like I'm falling behind, and like I feel less pressure to watch it now as opposed to watching it when I want to watch it.
It forces you to be a part of the world.
Yeah, more of a shared experience. Although
and frankly, I can get burned out. Like I enjoyed The Mandalorian a lot, but I think like if I watched the whole show over like a weekend, I wouldn't like it as much.
That's what happens sometimes. It's like, okay, a new season drops, and it's like, oh, I know what we're doing today. Your anecdote about the manatee, though, just made me picture like a sweaty Gene Hackman, like wailing on a manatee with a fantasy book, which is an incredibly horrible and funny thing to picture. Like, confess, you son of a bitch.
No, I love manatees. My grandma lives in Sarasota, Florida, and you can. They're known for manatee stuff in Florida, and they're so dumb to look at, and they eat they just feed them a lot of lettuce, and they can barely eat lettuce correctly. They're kind of like pandas. Like it's a miracle they're still alive. Like they're not.
Well, barely eat lettuce correctly. Like what? They get out a knife and fork, and they should take tiny bites. What is eating lettuce correctly?
I don't know. It's just like really sloppy. But I'm not a manatee, so I suppose everything's relative.
That's
a
the
weird
name of
tangent.
Biography, but I'm not a manatee.
But yeah, I'm not a manatee, but.
Not with that attitude.
Jeez, that's okay. Thrasher, what's something you've been watching?
All right, so I kind of just got a sort of wild hair because streaming services typically do a very shit job of including like older films.
Yes.
Like most streaming services most streaming services don't believe anything was made before 1987 except Star Wars. And
Amazon's
so,
probably better for that out of the main ones.
yeah, well, that's because they just got so much weird stuff. But and you know, Tubi has a few, which is nice.
Oh yes, of course, Tubi, Pluto.
Tubi.
Yeah.
Disney, of course, has some older Disney stuff. Although since they've removed through the decades as a category, it's very hard to find. But I decided to figure out, well, what's the oldest movie on HBO Max or HBO Plus or whatever the hell it's called, the HBO thing.
Yes.
So I did some digging around, and I have found what I believe to be the oldest thing available on HBO Max. It is a silent film from 1898, making it 123 years old as of this recording.
Damn.
Uh,
There's probably something lumped in the Criterion section.
Yeah, it's roughly a minute long, and it was written, directed, and starring George Méliès. It is Four Troublesome Heads. In the it's Un Homme de Tetas, which apparently literally means a man of heads.
How is it?
Yeah, that one's cool.
It's actually very charming. Like, it's a lot happens in the roughly 1 minute. It's based, and I really kind of got into it because I'm currently reading a book called Hiding the Elephant by Jim Steinmeier, which is about the history of modern stage magic. And this ties into it perfectly because all there are special effects in this, and they're all done through a mixture of film compositing and also a stage magic technique called black art. But essentially, like, he just kind of struts out. He waggles his mustache. He has a table on either side of him, and he pulls off his head, puts his head on the table. Then poof, he grows a new head. He pulls that head off, puts it on the table. Poof, and he keeps doing this until there's 4 heads on the tables, and like the heads are all pulling faces and looking around and reacting to everything with shock. It is exceptionally well timed, and the cuts are exceptionally well done. You can tell that George Méliès has experience with both stage magic and mime. And then he pulls out a banjo and he like strums the banjo, and all the heads start bobbing and moving their mouths like they're all singing in chorus. Of course, you don't actually hear anything, but it looks like they're all singing in a very coordinated way. And you know, then he like bows and that's the end. But it's so entertaining.
Yeah, he knows how to do some cool shit. And yeah, really gets the most out of the moving image. It's really wild.
Yeah, it's technically flawless. Like, it's a technical achievement from front to back. But also, George Méliès has this stage actor charisma that translates so wonderfully to the short silent film format.
And like you said, like getting every value out of that minute. And it's like once you have like a perfectly capped, like, you know, like show, he whips out a banjo and they start bobbing. You know what I mean? Like, you could have just cut it off there.
It's a big finish.
Yeah, the final anecdote's even better. I love it.
Yeah, and because it's so old, you know, I'm sure you could find this online right now, and it's a minute. Watch the Four Troublesome Heads. It gets a sequel, yes, from me. I want someone to make 5 Troublesome Heads.
If you're looking for some, you know, unburied treasures, what unburied treasures? What the hell am I talking about? That's a dumb phrase.
That sounds like a pulp horror story. The unburied treasure.
Yes. And other tales to terrify. Yeah, but on HBO Max they have a good selection of Popeye cartoons.
Ooh, yeah.
And those are hard to get and out of print on disc. And
those Fleischer Popeye cartoons are so
right,
good.
right. And I didn't realize it until I think someone in the Gilbert Gottfried Amazing Colossal Podcast Listener Society Facebook group pointed it out. And we all were going crazy over it because those are Popeye, I think, is overlooked for some reason, and I'm not sure why. They just haven't done a lot with him.
He hasn't really been on television I think the last time Popeye was on TV was in the cartoon Popeye and Son in the 80s. I mean, aside from like super early Sunday mornings that would sometimes show up as part of a package on TBS, but other than that, Popeye doesn't get much play.
Yeah.
No, in the 2000s, there was like a CG Popeye, and Dan Castellaneta, I think, might have voiced the title role or something.
Well, I don't believe that was ever finished, but Gendy Tartakovsky was
was it?
supposed to do that.
Okay.
The demo reel is amazing. Watch the demo reel for Gendy
that's
Tartakovsky's Popeye.
That could be what I'm thinking of. But yeah, Popeye was a strip that was huge. I mean, aside from being a spinach propagandist.
Well, the strip was called Thimble Theater. Popeye was a supporting character.
Yes, that broke out and become the star. But yeah, Popeye was a big piece of American culture. And I know Ralph Bakshi at one point talked about wanting to do a Popeye cartoon and couldn't get the rights or couldn't get the money for it. But that would have been something. He said he wanted to use like modern CG animation, but then use like 1930s cartoon physics and do something really wild with it.
It would be fun. And Popeye, I'm sure, would be involved in a lot of nudity.
I don't know. Not everything Bakshi did nudity, but most of it did. I mean, he got started at Terry Toons, I think, right? So.
Well, I mean, obviously the Terry Toons aren't going to have nudity, but there's nudity in so many of the other things he did.
Yes, no, he's a very thirsty boy. So,
but what were you? Or you just? Is what you watching just old Popeye cartoons in general?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was just said you mentioning the 1800s thing on HBO just made me think of Popeye because that's something people might not know is on that service. As frustratingly organized as it is, I wish you could just sort by release date. And on the app on Apple TV, at least you can't on so many services. And especially with HBO Max, my wife and I get upset because we look and see, what's new, but it's just like old stuff. It's just new stuff new movies they added to their library. But I want to see can I just see what came out in the past 3 months? In 2021.
I want a really good search feature. I want to be able to look at everything alphabetically. I want to be able to look at everything chronologically. Like, I wish I could just search by year. What do you have from 1947? I want to see all that,
Yeah, it's simple. It's not like
even maybe pick a decade and have it do a surprise me. I feel like a 1970s thing. Yeah, but yeah, I agree. It shouldn't be that hard, and I don't know why.
But I think I'm going to make this a project going forward. I'm going to try to find the oldest thing on every streaming service I have access to. Oh, and if you want to look at classic Popeye, the Popeye versus Sinbad the Sailor, or Sinbad the Sailor meets Popeye, whatever it's called, the Sinbad Popeye you got to watch it. It uses this amazing faux 3D animation technique that must be seen to be believed.
Oh, cool.
Now I want to think who has Betty Boop, because you see those and all those 200 cartoons in one disc collection where they look like shit.
I would assume Warner Brothers owns Betty Boop just because she was another Fleischer thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Food for thought. We talked about cartoons got cartoons in the brain. Alex, what have you been watching?
So
it better be an old cartoon.
Damn it. I got nothing. But in a very expected turn of character, I recently rewatched an old favorite of mine, Ching Siu-tung's directorial debut, A Duel to the Death. This is such a cool goddamn movie. It's Ching Siu-tung's first thing. He, obviously got a reputation for doing good martial arts choreography, and it's like the most cliche story ever. Every so many years, someone from Japan fights someone from China, right? And of course, meanwhile, there's numerous conspiracies and undercover things. But this really is one of the first truly batshit wuxia films out there. You've got ninjas flying in on kites. You've got fucking guys burying themselves underground. You've got people that just explode for some reason. There's one scene where these guys are flying in the air, fighting, kicking each other's ass. Cuts off one guy's head, kicks it, impales onto a branch. He utters some, cryptic ism before, for some unexplained reason, his head just fucking explodes. This is and that's just your average stuff. That gets crazier, and that's A Duel to the Death in a nutshell. It's just that show me something I've never seen before level of wuxia imagination, and it just got a souped up Blu-ray release by Masters of Cinema. And it's just great because I'm sure you guys know this, but so many of the old Hong Kong films are just on these DVDs that are borderline just Laserdisc transfers. And seeing this movie restored, and it's kind of stunning how good it looks.
Yeah, I mean, not just Laserdisc transfer. Some look like videotape transfer.
Right.
I even saw. I mean, the single worst image quality I've seen on something was a Blu-ray of all things for Highlander 2, the Renegade version. It's the only
Oh,
version
wow.
on Blu-ray that's out there, but it was like a weird interlaced European master, I think. So it has all these like shimmering lines through it. Like it looks, and some of the movie looks good, like in the close-ups and stuff, but it's pretty bad. And I'm not a huge snob on that kind of stuff, but that's like a movie that's fairly recent that
Right.
you think would have a better master. And it could be maybe there's a 4K version in Europe or something that looks great, but no, I hear you on the martial arts stuff. It's great they're getting the love they deserve. The original cuts, not like the cut up American versions and stuff.
Yeah, that was the other struggle too, is that you'd find the coolest stuff, and that it's the fucking dub version or just a crappy version.
I give Miramax credit for releasing a lot of that stuff, but I mean, they did cut the hell out of those Jackie Chan films and just about anything else.
Oh
Because
yeah,
because
definitely.
they did make a lot of that stuff mainstream. That New Line, right?
Yeah,
Pushing
New
a lot of the
Line.
martial arts. What was the
The
Tarantino label? Was it
Rolling Thunder. Yeah.
Thunder? Thank you. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts, Thrasher?
I have also spotted many that were clearly laserdisc transfers. I don't know. Like everything you're describing just reminds me of Ricky O, the story of Ricky. Makes me want to watch that again.
Yes, with the that's where that clip from the Daily Show was, right? The old ones where
the guy having his head exploded with a slap.
I think that was on the. They like had a sticker indicating that on my record store. It was like, the cut scene from the Daily Show. Like that's that.
Yeah, it did get like a brief American video release, and yeah, oh god, this would have been like the late '90s, early 2000s is when the Daily Show used that clip, and they, that was on certain video releases. I do recall that.
Yeah, it was really weird.
And actually, when I don't remember if it was a special anniversary broadcast or it was when Kilborn left and Jon Stewart came on, but they did a whole little feature like, okay, you know that weird clip? This is where it comes from. And they showed a bunch of other gonzo clips from Story of Ricky.
Wow,
it's
that's
kind of
pretty
funny
cool.
when you go back to like that earlier Comedy Central stuff. Like South Park was such a weird show the first like 3 seasons. Like the Daily Show was such a weird fucking show. Just like really gonzo and just weird. Yeah.
More absurdist, more at one season of South Park early on, I think it was either 3 or 4. To an extent, they speed up the voices and pitch them up to make them sound more like little kid voices. But they did it too much in one season, and they almost sound like chipmunks. Like it's almost like
it's weird,
unlistenable.
Right?
Yeah. Early on, they just sped themselves up. It wasn't until later they learned they could just use audio editing to just pitch shift the voice, and that made it so much easier for them to record those characters.
There might be a little bit of speeding up going on, but not. I mean, what's the real tragedy is in repeats of shows, they often speed stuff up by like 5% to fit in more commercials.
Oh, actually, no, it's 10%.
Excuse me. Geez, that's awful.
There actually used to be a special video editing machine called a 10%er that you would just run your master through, and it would spit out a new master that was 10% faster essentially by pulling every 10th frame.
Oof.
So I mean, again, this is why home media is important. Physical media is important. I hope it never completely goes away. It's becoming more niche.
Oh, an animation fun fact, the Simpsons episode Who Shot Mr. Burns Part 2, that episode turned out to be so dense, they ran it through the 10%er for the original airing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it was so dense, that was the only way they could get it to proper broadcast length without having to cut any important scenes. They 10%ed it, and they believe it got 10%ed again for the syndicated run, although I haven't seen the one that's in syndication in a long time. I'd love to compare the two.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I'm sorry, I'm losing track of time here. We're going a bit over. Alex, have you done what you're watching? Yes, you did. Everyone's done what you're watching. Good. Okay. Long week. Damn you, jet lag. Okay. So there's no script read on this, but
you don't want one anyway.
No, man, it's fine. But before we go, whose turn is it to pick the next series of movies?
I don't know.
I don't know. Who picked this one?
Well, I did The Shining.
Yes,
after
I picked
me?
American Tail, so
So it must be Thrasher.
you,
right?
Thrasher.
Okay, so I'm putting my foot down. I've tried to do this before, but because you mentioned this in the pre-show banter, I hereby decree, let it be known throughout the land, especially in New Jersey, that the next series we're going to do is the Toxic Avenger quadrilogy.
Very
Yes.
And hey, do you all want to sort of like just mention the animated series piecemeal, or do you also want to review the animated movie, which is really just like the first 3 episodes edited together? I think it's available for free online.
I'm fine with the animated movie, I guess.
Okay, we'll make that part of the fun.
So
Yeah. I don't. Did that come out after 2 and 3, or at the same time, or?
It'll be Toxic Avenger Part 2, Toxic Avenger Part 3, Last Temptation of Toxie, then the Toxic Crusaders animated movie, and then Toxic Avenger 4, Citizen Toxie.
Nice.
I'll have to reach out to a friend of mine. He actually worked when he was younger on Toxic Avenger 4, Citizen Toxie, I believe.
Very cool.
Doing random. I think
Doing
maybe he
whatever
might have done some like camera work,
scene.
whatever he did, eating cheese sandwiches in a basement to, as they do with all the casting crew in the Roger Corman fashion.
Sweet.
Okay, very good. So I'm Matt. You can follow me on Twitter at MATWBT. My latest. Oh.
Oh no, I'm sorry. No, it is your bit. I thought you were done.
No, it's fine. My latest book is a collection of short stories called "Here's Mud in Your Eye" and Other Short Stories. Sort of these comedic horror pieces that inadvertently most of them have anthropomorphism, although I didn't go into them planning that. So it's the Audible version is being worked on, and I'm really happy with the guy that's doing the Audible. So hope that comes out soon. Thrasher.
All right, well, you can follow me on Twitter at WT2Art. Also, check out my latest release, 100 Oddities for an Arcane Academy, done through Skirmisher Publishing LLC. I co-wrote that book. I illustrated it, and I think it's one of the best. It's probably the best oddities book in the series. I had a lot of fun making it. Had a lot of fun working with my collaborators. So definitely check that out. Also, go to Etsy, look for A Punch in the Art. There, as of this recording, there's more stuff that I've designed. I've got enamel pins. I've got microfiber glasses wipes that I've designed. Should be on that shop as well. So definitely check out A Punch in the Art on Etsy. That's it's a shop my wife started, and she's been kind enough to let me move some of my own stuff in there.
Cool.
Nice. And Alex.
You can find me on the Twitter at CrabNebula1914. I am also currently ghostwriting Matt's autobiography. I'm not a manatee, but I also drop by my YouTube channel, The Trailer Project, for trailer commentaries and other fun, weird stuff.
Nice. Very good. I made the mistake while you were talking of opening a 1970s little Scrooge McDuck action figure, and now the plastic is releasing an awful smell.
Why? How do you have that, and why did you open it?
I don't know. I said I usually give those things away for free. I have it because there's a guy online, Dinosaur Dracula.
Oh yeah.
And I sent him some of my old videotapes, because he wanted old commercials from the 80s and 90s and stuff. And then he sent me a box of goodies as a gift, which you didn't have to do. It was very nice.
That's
and
cool.
Most of that I give away when I talk at conventions, but I do like Scrooge McDuck. So that one I decided to take out of the plastic and have it on my desk as a little accoutrement, as we all work from home more now than ever. And I actually prefer that. So
me too.
Fuck open offices.
Oh yeah.
On that note, for SequelCast 2, this is Matt.
And this is Thrasher.
This is Alex.
Saying.
Your dogs are a bunch of bullies.
Well, Well, let me tell you something, Tiger. You really can't go on the newspaper like that. It's meant for people to read. You're not supposed to use it to do your business on. I know it kind of smells nice, probably feels good when you scratch it, but you really have to avoid that. Please.
Yeah. You see, I got so many scoops. You might as well call me Ben and Jerry. Yeah.
Jesus.
Oh.
When you said scoops, I was thinking scooping litter box, but yeah, you were talking newspaper scoops.
Why not both?
I'm the creature de la nuit, the poodle of Paris. And nowhere in the world is there a dog more smart than me.